Okay. Good to see you again.
Thanks.
Where would you like to start today?
Really, unfortunately, so I last saw you. I talked to you about my sister before. Uh, she's really worried, I guess, about me and for me and things like that. And I don't know. She wants to talk to my parents about um, me being bi or gay. And I don't know that I'm ready for that, but, definitely she's saying I need to talk to them or maybe come back to their church and talk to the pastor or something, so I don't know.
When you kind of look in your mind's eye and you imagine yourself um, talking to your parents, what comes up for you? How do you feel? What are your thoughts?
Well, yeah, super anxious about that. I can't even imagine it. Definitely, I think I told you a little bit about the church I grew up in, and
Mm-hmm.
you know, I just really imagine them saying, get out, or you're going to hell, or things that throughout our lifetimes when they've talked about someone being a sissy or someone you know or stay away from that person, something like that. There was a youth pastor a long time ago that came out, and then he had to get up in front of the whole church and tell everyone and talk about how he was sorry, and he was going through this thing to change who he was. So I just imagine my parents really being shocked and wanting me to do something like that.
Hmm. When you think about doing something like that, going through um, some program to change you, tell me a little bit about that. What would that?
Well, I don't know. I mean, like we've been talking about, I'm certainly at a point now where I'm got a lot of uncertainties and not sure about things and been worried about things. Yeah, I don't know though. Uh,
Yes.
a lot of it is like he would have to talk about, um, flipping through thing about like a Sears, I think it was a Sears catalog, and looking at women and things like that, and I don't know, it just felt really, I don't know if it was because it was in front of the entire church or things like that, it just really felt shameful, like he, was on the spotlight and having to, so I don't know about it, it definitely sounds like, I don't know, painful, or I don't know if that's the right word, but
Can you imagine that being painful?
well, yeah, I mean, I just remember, you know, when I was growing up and that happened, and you know, uh, I don't know, he was such a great guy before all that happened, and then eventually he just stopped coming to church and things like
Mm.
that. So,
We talked a couple of sessions back about that sometimes, I'll be a little more direct in here. The type of work that I do tends to be, we really explore and let you come to your own answers. And sometimes there are important things that you might not know, or you may not be aware of, that it's really important for me to talk about with you. And so you brought up a really important word, which is shame. And so I just want to throw something out and let you think about it and kind of sit with it and tell me, if this has been your experience.
mm-hmm.
If it isn't, then, toss it up, throw it away. It's not your truth. If it is, I'd like to kind of explore it. And so oftentimes we'll find that people who identify as gay or lesbian, bisexual, transgender, they've often experienced these moments of shame throughout their lives. It can be overt, It can be very subtle. It can be just about feeling different and not knowing why. And the more you experience that, the more, the word we use is internalize, meaning, you just really begin to kind of soak it in. It becomes part of who you are, this shame. And so it sounds like you're describing an experience where part of you is saying, I might be like him. And you saw him sort of reveal this, and it was very shameful. And I'm really wondering how that shame has impacted you, and even thinking about yourself.
Well, definitely thinking about myself and just thinking about, like, my parents saying, you got to go to church, you got to join that program, you got to get up and talk about it in front of everybody and apologize and things like that. So, yeah, I mean, that it's just scary to even think about doing any of that, and definitely why I don't think I want to talk to my parents about it, or haven't talked to them about it. And my sister, I feel like her pushing me to, kind of do this, but, I certainly, I don't know. I know I've always been very private, so to have to kind of reveal that all to everybody that have known me, or, not everybody, but a lot of them have known me or known about me all my life, so, yeah.
I want to come back to a piece of that, but I'm curious. I didn't ask you before. How old were you when this event happened? Where you said it was one of the pastors actually had to get up, and one of the youth pastors had to get up and actually sort of reveal this. How old were you when this happened?
I think when it happened, I was maybe junior high. Yeah, probably. Yeah, that sounds about right.
That's a really important time when we're developing identity. We hit adolescence and we start thinking about who am I in this world. And we, in our work in psychology, we know that that's a really important developmental time where identity becomes very crucial. And it's built on all the things that you've done before that kind of make up who am I, when you've been answering those questions throughout your life. But when you hit about 13, the ability to think about who am I is really expanded. And so I just wonder what this did, when you sit with this and you think about, if I was really thinking about who am I and seeing this, what this did, and how did this impact you?
Well, it was really hard just because he would do, we would do these, puppet shows, these productions and things like that, and so up to then, it had been really great, and he was, super fun and helpful, but didn't ever, I wouldn't have never known. He never, did anything or touched me or anything like that. So then it was just hard for him, to do this, to learn about this, and to think about how bad it was and how he had to apologize to everybody for this. So,
can I ask you a question? I don't mean to interrupt, but there was a piece that you just said that seems really important to me. You qualified that he hadn't touched you or he hadn't done anything to you. I'm wondering why you're qualifying that with me. Why you're, needing to say that.
I don't know. There's so much stuff in them out there, priests and other people in the church and acting out, and that he never did anything like that. And so I think that was a part of, I guess, what I want you to know about him, that I certainly had no idea, and it wasn't like a story that he did something to me or anyone that I know about. And so, I don't know, for whatever reason, that was just, I wanted you to know that he hadn't done anything to me or anything like that, because it was just a complete surprise. And then, I felt, I think, bad about the fact that he had to get up and apologize to everyone when, I mean, he was apologizing, I guess, for just being gay or whatever, and trying to change that. But it's not like he did something like horrible where he was, you know,
Hmm.
did something with those of us that were working with him or something like that.
Sounds like you're distinguishing the difference between pedophilia and being gay. I mean,
Yeah, but I mean, unfortunately, in the church that I grew up in, it was really one and the same. And then when you hear about things in the news, about a priest or somebody, doing something sexual with a young kid, fortunately, I think, that's what we hear about all the time. And so, even though he had to get up and apologize and things like that, he certainly didn't. It wasn't like one of those stories, I guess.
right. Sounds like he was a pretty decent guy.
Yeah, certainly, yeah. I mean, all of us really liked him, really liked working with him and things like that. And after that, we didn't do that anymore. And I can't remember if that's something they did or if it was because of my age or things like that. But I don't remember like the things that we used to do with him happening anymore after that happened.
Hmm.
So
I just wonder, this is a kind of a moment for us to take a look at a possibility. It may not be true. It may be. I just want you to think about that. The fact that you needed to qualify that for me even means that maybe somewhere inside of you, you've picked up that message. It's been internalized that somehow there's some link.
mm-hmm.
And then the evidence is there isn't.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's definitely something, I think about with my, worried about my parents, and my sister even brought it up when I talked to her, about not being be around kids, and it's really hard for me because I'm not attracted to kids, actually the people I'm attracted to are usually at least my age, if not older than me. So I think it's something that I think everyone believes about people that are gay, that they, and so part of me thinks about talking to my family about it. My sister says, then I won't be allowed to be around the kids in the family.
That sounds like that'd be a pretty big loss for you.
Yeah, and again, I guess maybe that's why I started thinking about that pastor, because it really, I don't know, there just seemed really like some unfairness about, and that shame or, whatever, about having to like get up in front of everybody and apologize and talk about, some pretty private stuff that, but it was like the expectation that you had to do that. And so when I think about, you've started talking about these programs, or you had mentioned that, that definitely, I don't want to ever have to do that, I guess, and have to like say, get up in front of a group of people and tell them all sorts of things about me, that are private.
So, we've talked about, and this is going to be a journey about really just finding what's authentic and true for you. And at least in this moment, what I hear you say is that going and doing one of these programs and going through this process doesn't sound like that would be very genuine. Doesn't sound like it would be very you.
It certainly isn't something that sounds like anything I'd want to do. And so, I just think if I tell my parents, then that's, that's what my church does, and that's what, and I don't go there anymore, but, my parents still do. And so, I feel like that would be what they would want me to do to fix myself and to, kind of do this real public penance sort of a thing.
Well, one piece. I want to come back once again to a piece that you had talked about a couple of times now, but I really think it's important for us to talk a little bit about, how we in the field of psychology, those of us who practice ethically and follow, we have a set of guidelines. American Psychological Association sets guidelines for us in our work and doing that ethically. And one of the things that I want you to know is, these programs that you're talking about, they actually pathologize being gay, and they pathologize being bisexual, being transgender. These are all pathologized. And that is not something that we agree as far as practicing as an ethical psychologist. It certainly is not something that I would ever encourage, to be honest with you. We don't consider that to be ethical work. And that really, being gay isn't an illness. And what really triggered that for me is you used the word fix. Do you feel like you need to be fixed?
I wonder sometimes because, like I'm not sleeping like at times, and definitely you mentioned like the angst and stuff like that. So sometimes I wonder about that. I certainly am not looking to have to go through that thing that I described, but with the pastor. But sometimes I wonder if that's what's wrong or something like that. And that's why I am thinking about it, or I'm having trouble sleeping, or something like that.
Well, this is that segue back to that piece I kept saying I'm going to come back to, which is, really wanting to explore authenticity with you. So your sister kind of encourages you to possibly engage in one of these programs. Maybe even some part of you from watching this going on in your life and seeing this as a possible truth of what you should or shouldn't do. Maybe even some part of you might see some allure in this, if I'm fixed, I'll sleep better. So let's just do a little exploration. I just want to ask you a few questions about your experience. So you told me that you had engaged in relationships with women, and that and you're currently engaging in a relationship with Alan. So let's do a little exploration there. When you're engaging with in relationships with women, think about your angst and your feelings and what was there. How did that feel for you?
It was good. It was fine. I guess it felt like a lot of times it would just get to a point where I just felt like they'd get really needy and really want me around a lot more than I wanted. And so, every Friday and Saturday I have to take them somewhere and do something like that. And so, there were times where I wanted to just go hang out with my friends and things like that. And the things that we would do, I would say, oh, hey, you want to come and do this? And they'd say no. But then there'd be like, why don't you want to take me out, or things like that. And so, so it just, so it was good and good for a while, but then, when I would just want to hang out with my friends, and they wouldn't want to do that, but so it just seemed like a lot of work sometimes, and so that's when it would just kind of drift away, sort of thing.
Well, so just for clarification, you're kind of describing something that can happen in any relationship where, maybe the two people just, what they want to do doesn't align very well, maybe not a good match. And I know part of your exploration and confusion here is, what is my sexual orientation has been a question that's come up for you. And so, in thinking about this, I'm just wondering, in your own thoughts and in your own view, why maybe you weren't engaging in as much time with them, it being that this seemed to be you said this is a pattern in the relationships you had with women.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, definitely, get a lot of pressure, have friends set me up, so feel like I've got to, go give it another try and, try again. And so, definitely, like around the holidays, a lot of questions about why aren't you dating someone, so it's always easier, to have a girl to bring home at the holidays, even though then it's like, well, when are you getting married and when are you going to have children? And so then, that's when it's like, oh, well, hold on a second. But definitely the acceptance is super present. And of course, I've obviously never done that with a guy. I've never done that with Alan in particular. I really didn't have a steady boyfriend before Alan. But, definitely being treated by all the family members, on the one hand, it was like acceptance. On the other hand, it was like, it's like then there's all this pressure, when's the next step, when you're going to do, when you're getting married, when you know, do things like that, so.
So in thinking about the actual times that you were engaging in the relating, with each other, the actual relationship itself, it sounds like what you're describing is a lot of all these external pressures. I guess what I want you to begin to kind of explore, because we're talking about your authenticity. And that's not to dismiss all of these external pressures, because you're really describing all of the different areas that can impact your decisions and really cause a lot of confusion. But I want you to kind of funnel it down just to you.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you're really thinking about the moments that you were relating with the people that you've dated, that you've felt some connection with, quality and experience, what was it like with men? What was it like with women? Were there differences? Were there similarities?
Yeah, I mean, I guess, the first girlfriend I ever had back in high school, it was interesting because I felt like that wouldn't have happened if she hadn't been so persistent. And so, but then once it happened, then, things moved along and things like that. But then there was a time where she thought she was pregnant, and so that was, a real scary time. And then, things kind of ended after that. And then, the other times that I've had a steady girlfriend, it's been, more, again, I think, because someone's introduced us or something like that. So I don't know that I've really ever sought out dating women. And it was definitely different with Alan because, I went to a bar and met him and really liked the way he looked and started talking to him and, so this has felt really different. And it was, somewhat different this time. I guess we just have a lot more in common because there are other times where I met guys in the bar, but it would just be, like a one-time thing and wouldn't see them again, or if it did, didn't connect again or things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess that's kind of how it's been different for me.
Well, it sounds like, you were saying that you didn't really seek out relationships with women, but you did seek out this relationship with Alan.
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell me a little bit about that, about the experience of, the draw to actually seek out a relationship where you haven't really had that in the past?
I don't know, and I don't know that I was, well, I guess maybe I was looking for a relationship, but, I mean, it certainly started the way it started with other guys. But it was weird for whatever reason with Alan. A lot of times when I'd been with guys before, we'd be together, and then, as soon as we were done, I would leave. And something about this time, I ended up staying, and then we spent the next day together talking and went and saw a movie and stuff like that. And so yeah, I don't know per se, but it just felt really comfortable, and and then we started dating and things like that, and because we like the same kinds of things, I guess that's the way it was different for me from the girls that I had dated in the past, because it was more, we liked the same things, so we would kind of hang out and stuff like that.
So what is that like? What is that like for you to be in a relationship where you feel like this connection, you like the same things, you seem to be engaged? I mean, you told me a little bit about some experimentation when you were about 14 where you had a crush on a guy
Mm-hmm.
in one of our previous sessions. And this just feels very similar to that, where you have this sort of deeper emotional connection than you've experienced in other relationships.
Yeah, and I guess, well, definitely when I was 14, I think that was hard because we were both, you know, in high school, and he went to a different high school, and we were in the scouts together, and so we would see each other, but we couldn't really talk about it, and things like that, so it just happened occasionally, and things like that, so. But I don't know if that was the question you were asking.
That's okay. Just be with whatever comes up for you. I mean, as you're exploring this, that's the most important piece.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Yeah.
So you're kind of talking about maybe some differences even then with this friend, and I know that was a really painful time because when you actually, said that you liked this friend, and that ended the friendship afterwards when you were 15.
Yeah, definitely, like, we couldn't really talk about it, and so, it got to the point where, he really shut it down, and then we wouldn't see each other because it kind of freaked him out, and he didn't want people to know and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So then I just didn't date anyone until I was a senior, and then that's when that girl pursued me and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So,
I just wonder what it means to you when you kind of look across the span of your life and you're talking about places where the relationships and the connections have felt significant,
mm-hmm.
where you've either put yourself out there, even if it's led to a painful outcome,
Mm-hmm.
but where you really put yourself out there. So far has been in the relationships that have been same sex.
Mm-hmm.
I was wondering, what does that say to you, if anything?
Hmm.
Not that it should.
I don't know. I'm not sure. I mean, I guess, I guess that's why I'm really confused, because, I've been with women and I've been with men, and I haven't really thought about how, I've been more interested in seeking out men, and when it came to being with women, it was more, not something I really sought out, but, definitely, I guess it's also confusing because, getting the acceptance, people, I don't know, it's kind of like a sigh of relief, and then everyone's super excited, and
Mm-hmm.
things like that, people in my family and stuff like that, so I think that feels good,
Mm-hmm.
because then, definitely act different, and, so that's hard, so.
So it sounds like to be in these places where you've had genuine connections, you risk losing all of that good feeling, that genuine feeling of wanting your family to love and accept you.
Yeah, because definitely when I've been in relationships with women, that's, I think, the piece where, my parents are happy, other family members are super happy, so I feel good about that, so I feel like it's the thing I'm supposed to be doing. And so, and I don't know how aware I am of that in the moment, but thinking back about it, that definitely seems to be a piece of it. But, I'm certainly more seeking out guys. And then I just don't know how I feel about that, because then again, I think that comes up against how I think about, how I see things in the media about gay people and, having to be very feminine and effeminate and, things like that. And that's not me, so it's really, I guess sometimes I feel like I don't fit either. So that's where, I guess I am with it.
It's like you don't belong.
Right.
What was that like for you?
Well, unfortunately, I think that's kind of maybe my normal, is just feeling like I don't belong. And so...
Can I encourage you? I want to take you to a different place real quick. So you just gave me your thoughts about what that's like. And so I'm wondering what, sometimes we'll stay in a place that's thinking because it's safer. And I'm wondering what it would be like for you to share how you feel about these things in here. I mean, I'm thinking, a couple weeks ago you got a bit teary-eyed when you thought about ending your relationship with Alan to please your parents and make your sister happy. And I also remember you getting angry about the fact that your sister would impose this on you in the first place. And that was when I saw some emotions coming up. And so, kind of what I'm asking is, what is it like to not belong? To not feel like you have a place?
Yeah, I guess it just really feels lonely, feels bad, I guess, to only, like, if I do the things that they want, then that's how I can be accepted. And so feels, I guess I feel sad sometimes. Other times I might, like when I talked about being angry at my sister, it's like, because she knows what I've told her, but she's still trying to connect me with different women she knows. And so it just really, it's like, I told you how it is with Alan and how happy I am, and you're trying to still, connect me with women and get me to date a woman and things like that. So, yeah, it feels real bad and confusing, more confusion about, and I guess, definitely kind of lonely, like if I don't do what they want, then I'm out on my own, kind of a thing.
Sometimes that's, it really sounds like the part of being true to yourself, and being genuine. Sometimes we find that the people that are supposed to love us, or we think that are supposed to love us, it feels like a failure of that relationship. And I just, I wonder sometimes if maybe you're putting that failure on yourself when it's not yours. Some of that guilt may not belong to you. So maybe that's something that, we need to explore a little bit more.